Hello and welcome to the Guest EdTech Virtual Summit Dubai. Thank you for joining us. We're pleased to introduce you to Michael Henderson, Assistant Head of Digital Learning at Sheikh Zayed Private Academy for Boys. We hope that you enjoy this session, and over to you, Michael.
Thank you very much. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you today about how we can use technology to enhance the teaching and learning in a hybrid model. Obviously, we've been going through this period now since around about March, and we've had technology has exploded since that time. We have lots of things happening, lots of different pieces of software being developed constantly. And I want to talk to you about kind of some of the things that you might want to think about in your schools, and kind of making sure that you have not overwhelming your staff, not overwhelming your students or your parents at the same time. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a trainer for Al Ain Educational Investments. I'm also, like just said, I'm a digital team at Sheikh Zayed Private Academy for Boys in Abu Dhabi. So a little bit about my school. We are based in Abu Dhabi. We started in 2015, and since then we have already become an Apple Distinguished School. We were the second in Abu Dhabi and one of only 535 in the world. We are a one-to-one iPad school in grades 3 up, and lower down in the school we have those. We have iPad carts for people to use as well. One thing to note about me when I'm talking through this, it's not going to be iPad specific. I'm going to try and make sure that if you're a Google platform school, a Windows school, or an Apple school, you still have some kind of takeaway from today's session. We are, in our school, an American curriculum school, but we have a very strong emphasis on Arabic and Islamic studies, with 93% of our students being Emirati nationals. In the 5 years that we've been open, we've already been awarded the best blended curriculum in the UAE by the Schools Compared, and we are, as well as making the top 10 best schools in in the UAE. In our latest ADEC inspection, this was the kind of things they were talking about and mentioned in their reports when it came to tech and digital innovation. I'm not going to read through them all there, but you can see them on your screens. And hopefully that kind of shows that our school is kind of at the forward thinking when it comes to digital innovation, and we can pass that on to you as you're listening today. We do have, like I said, iPads in our school, and pre-COVID, we were using them all the time to ensure that I support the progress and support the students' learning as much as possible. Me and my team would go into classes and we would work with the teachers to make sure that they were using them as effectively as they can and maybe delivering different sessions or small groups with the students. We also have Lego in our school. We have lots of Lego kits, and before COVID, we would use those in all grades in our school, right from KG all the way up to grade 12. And we would use it to improve the literacy of our students, maybe the creativity, improving their fine motor skills, their lateral thinking, and obviously working towards STEM. We also have IT suites in our school, and we use those for a range of things, subject specific and also computer science skills. And we're lucky enough to have things like a green screen room where we can encourage people to bring their learning to life and engage students by making videos and developing their independence and resilience. In every classroom, we have interactive boards, and we use those to support the teaching by airplaying work straight up to the board and all those kind of things that you would usually use an interactive board for. So that was before COVID. And then, of course, come March or around that time, schools in the UAE especially were told, right, we have to turn to online learning. And it's a really strange and unprecedented time that we've been in. And people were thinking all around, okay, what do we do? And from my point of view, we're looking at, well, how can we use the technology to enhance the teaching and learning in a hybrid model? We knew at some point there would be students coming into school and there'd be people online, and how we're going to cater to all their needs. So the first thing you have to think about, and I'm sure you're halfway through this by now, is that whether you're going to be a 50-50 model where you have students in the morning, then in the afternoon, or whether you have an A week and a B week. And as you have seen very recently, it was announced that all students in Abu Dhabi, at least, will be coming back into the schools, as that wasn't happening up until very recently. So how can we make sure that we are getting the best out of this technology when it comes to a hybrid model? Well, the first thing that we thought about was the synchronous versus asynchronous lessons. Quite often you think of traditional teaching as you're standing in front of a class of X number of students and you're delivering that. So when you suddenly go to online or hybrid, that you would do exactly the same. But what we found in our school is that actually asynchronous lessons work much better than live lessons. So by pre-recording our lessons, it allowed the teacher to prepare when it's suitable for them in their and their flexibility, gives them flexibility with their times, but also for the students when they're at home, they can then choose when to watch that video. They can also rewatch it if they've made a mistake with something, and it actually really helps them with their learning and work at their pace that suits them. Okay. One of the things when thinking about synchronous to asynchronous, or if you're actually currently changing your model, as some schools are doing, including ours, into more of a hybrid model, is thinking about the technology or the equipment that you already have. Before going out to buy things like document cameras, which are fantastic, do you already have something in your school which can be used and utilized? For example, your iPad or your mobile device. People don't realize things like the iPad have a document camera built into them. So why would you then go out and buy and spend more money when you already have those devices? So do think about that as well. Another thing to think about is your live video platform. There are many platforms out there. There are things like Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, Zoom, are kind of the big ones that are being used in schools around the UAE. And how you use those is up to you. It can do so much more than just be a camera at the back of the classroom or at the front of the classroom. One of the big things in our school, we were like, okay, well, we can't do things like science experiments anymore. We can't do all these interactive drama lessons, music lessons, because they're not in the classroom. But actually what we found is, but if you just get something to prop up your tablet or iPad, or you get an iPad stand, and you put a Zoom or Teams or Google Meets on there, you can do the exact same, okay? With software like Meets, Google Meets and Zoom, you can also have things like Breakout Rooms. So if it is a platform that you're using or you are looking at wanting to create a space where you can actually go from your main classroom into breakout areas for differentiated learning and then come back again, think about using those platforms in that way. One way when it comes to the hybrid model that works quite well is buddying somebody up. So you have one child in class, a face-to-face learner, and you buddy them up with somebody who's working at home. And when you use Microsoft Teams in that way, or one of the other platforms, you can then make sure that they are both interacting with the learning. You can have the person in face-to-face clarify anything they necessarily can't see as clearly at home, and they can really be a support for one another. As well as using it for students with their learning, think about from the teacher's perspective about using it for things like observations. Just because we're not allowed to break bubbles and all that kind of thing that's going on at the moment, you can still give them an iPad or a device, put it into the back of the room and still observe their lesson. You can drop into their live lesson they've got on the screen in the hybrid model. So that's some of the ways you can use that software as well. With the cloud-based learning, cloud-based documents allow anyone from anywhere to be able to access these documents. And although we use them an awful lot at the moment, like before COVID, you might already have a Google Drive that you have in your school or a OneDrive or something like that, actually using that in a different way. So rather than having documents where you would print them out to give to students, you already have them on your computer. So why are you then printing them out to give to somebody when actually you could just put them somewhere and give them the link or give them a QR code? And that means they can access that anywhere. They're not going to lose it. They can duplicate that as many times as they like. So it's a really cool way of making sure that you are keeping that contact with your students no matter where they are. And it also means that you're not having to take in things like paper from your students, which again, at the moment, we want to try and minimize. Another thing that we did with cloud-based documents is we created these interactive classrooms. So for students that couldn't visit the library anymore, or they couldn't visit the Lego room in their break times and stuff like that, or spaces where they can extend their learning, things like ECAs are cancelled, a virtual space is really useful. So this has been made just in Google Slides. It's a simple, basically, it's a presentation software, Google Slides, and they've put on some different things there with links to then hyperlinks to websites. So they have one hub that they can go to, and then from there they can then explore where they need to go. And then what this teacher has done is they just used the green screen, which they've made using green paper in their classroom, and they then added that onto their video, onto their classroom at the very start, just to give a bit of an introduction. We also got told by the government that displays had to be minimal and not to be, because they had to be sanitized. So one way we got around that is by having interactive virtual displays. Now you might think, well, how does that actually enhance the teaching and learning? But if they know that work is going to be displayed somewhere, that they're going to have more of a drive to actually get the best piece of work possible. So whether that's paper-based or digital, if they know that's going to be displayed to the public somewhere, then they're going to put more effort into it. So these interactive displays, again, have been made using Google Slides. And they're just a simple page with hyperlinks to other slides, and they can work their way through and find their piece of work. They can have a look at other people's. So it's, again, just another different way that you can use these platforms that we already use all the time for so many other things. In terms of classroom communities, you might already be using some of these things like Seesaw or Class Dojo, but you might not realize that they've actually been improving what they have on them during this remote learning and hybrid model. If you're not aware of what Seesaw and Class Dojo are, they are ways that teachers can connect with students and parents to build these amazing classroom communities, a bit like a blog. They can take pictures of what the students are doing and post on there for their students, students to see themselves, or for their parents to see as well. Dojo also has an extra feature built in where they can give people like rewards, like a house point system, that kind of thing. Whereas Seesaw is a bit more for creating lessons and for students to see like a feed of their work, like an online portfolio type thing. As you can see from here, in my school, just my elementary and KG school use this platform, and they have over 6,000 posts this week. So think about the amount, we don't have that many students at all. So they are always interacting with their learning. They're having that teacher feedback. Teachers can comment on their work. They can actually speak to their students using their voice. And that really does improve the teaching and learning that's going on, because they're getting that valuable feedback, whether they're in the classroom or they're at home. Going a bit bigger than that is you might really think about your learning management system. You might already have a learning management system like Google Classroom or Blackboard or Schoology or Moodle. There's loads of them out there, and you've got to think about what's going to work for you in your school with your background data systems as well. So, for example, Schoology, which we introduced in our school this year, links very well with PowerSchool, which we use for our admin as well. If you don't have those, and you're not wanting those to be linked up with things like reporting systems and with admissions, you might want to go for something a bit smaller like Apple Schoolwork, which does the same job as kind of like Google Classroom and so on, where you can build your lessons and units of work all in one place. It's your central hub for everyone to go to. If you want something a bit bigger, things like Blackboard and Schoology allow you to then also have student-teacher interaction through things like the built-in email systems. They allow you to add on different packages into those apps, like apps into your learning management system, and it kind of is a centralized hub with calendars and all that kind of thing in there. Okay. When you are in school in the hybrid model, thinking about using collaboration, and I mentioned before about pairing up, buddying up someone in school and at home, and collaboration is another way where that can be used. So rather than having to have a Teams call where they're talking to each other on a Teams call but actually doing separate work, they can use the collaboration feature built into most device platforms where you can then collaborate and work on the exact same document. Lots of teachers tend to use this kind of thing on like Google Drive. They have a Google Doc where they do their planning on, and they all link into one. But actually using it now going beyond that to the students as well. If students love creating a piece of work and seeing that somebody else, even within the same classroom, is adding value to that piece of work, we don't want students to be walking around too much at the moment and being too close to one another. And people think just because we're in this times that we can't collaborate, we've all got to work independently, and that's not the case. Okay, so things like using Apple iCloud, Google Drive, Google OneDrive, and get the students actually doing that as well. Give them that ownership for their learning and make them accountable for what they're producing. Okay, give them each a role within their class maybe, and have one person the photographer, one person is the reporter, one person is the designer, and actually then they create one really good piece of work. In terms of online interactive learning, Nearpod has been, for us in our school, one of the best platforms that we have used. It's really come on leaps and bounds. And as I said, this is not about advocating one piece of software at all. There are many other platforms out there, but for us, Nearpod has worked really well. If you're not sure what Nearpod is, I can create a lesson using PowerPoint or using PDFs that I've already got. I can drag and drop them into Nearpod, and within that, I can then ask questions and check for understanding points. So I can have a question at the start to review the previous week. I can have a collaboration feature built into that. And I put along the top there, you can see a bar of all the different things that elements that can be added into your Nearpod lessons. You can take them on a virtual tour to somewhere using VR. You can have matching activities. There's so much. You can include videos. And one of the latest things, you can include a video and actually have it pause halfway through to ask the question and then carry on. So for Nearpod for us was fantastic. And you can see there, we've got over on the graph on that page, you can see this on April is over 40,000 people, students in our school, joined one of those lessons, and just in 1 month. So you can see the spike as we went through that, and now you can see as we rejoined in August, September kind of time, that it's now started to go up again. Okay, so Nearpod for us was a fantastic tool. Another thing to think about to increase that and enhance that learning would be the gamification. Students will obviously do more if they can see kind of like if they don't see it as learning. And two quite popular platforms here in the UAE are is Kahoot and also Quizzes. And Kahoot and Quizzes they do a very similar thing. They allow you to ask questions and you can answer from wherever you are. So it's really good for this hybrid model. The slight difference between the two is sometimes, Kahoot actually updated it recently. They used to just have the symbols, but now they have the wording and the symbols together. Quizzes, they can kind of do a bit more independently or in their own time. So again, depending on whether you're going more down the asynchronous route or synchronous would be what you would choose there. Now, in terms of managing your devices, at the moment, we don't want to be walking around the room too much. We don't want to be doing an awful lot touching their devices. So by managing their devices from your central device can be a really effective way of doing this. There are loads of different options. There's things like VR, My Vision kiosk, Apple Classroom. If you've got iPad devices, it's just fantastic. You can see their screens from your screen. You can then interact with those by either locking their screen. You can send them to websites yourself. You can open apps for them. You can lock them in apps. There's so much you can do without having to walk around the room. Now, the only thing with this one is they have to be in the room, especially for Apple Classroom. They work on Bluetooth, so they have to be there. But when you've got students online, which you're already now managing through things like Microsoft Teams and muting them and so on, having then the students in class being able to manage those without having to walk around the room, you can do it all from your one computer or device. So just to recap, how can technology enhance the teaching and learning in a hybrid model? is through all of these ways, okay? As I've just discussed, there's so much there. One thing we did note in our school is we were at one point going, yeah, we'll try that because that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. Let's try all these ideas. And it's just overwhelming for everyone. So try to streamline it a little bit and have, okay, we want one really good online platform that we use for English, one really good online platform we use for science, and so on. Because there are so many out there. Then think about, okay, well, are we going to go, which online live video platform we're going to use, which management system we're going to use, and try and just kind of make it encompass everything in one. If you're using Microsoft, then they have quite a lot of that built in already, so that on their Teams they can also, you can add files to that, you can add groups to that, you can have the chats function in there. So Microsoft Teams kind of does encompass a lot of those things in one, but it doesn't have everything. And actually, there might be other things out there that you think you want to give a try. If you have thought of something in that you want to kind of implement, or you're thinking about what's the next steps, you can always get a hold of me using one of those methods that you can see on the screen, and I'll be more than happy to talk through that and talk through your options in more detail.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael, for the presentation. If you have any questions pertaining to the session, you can connect with Michael through the networking system on the virtual event platform as well. We'd also love to hear from you, so feel free to share any thoughts or comments by sending us an email to marketing@guesteducation.com. We'll be on social media as well during the summit, so if you want to chat to us there, follow us on Twitter @guesteducation and use the hashtags #guestedtech and #guestdubai. This is just one of many on-demand videos that you can watch at any time during the summit, as well as a full program of live keynote and panel sessions across both days. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you, and bye-bye for now.